P.O.L. Review.
Yo, what up y'all? IntraVenus here, back with another episode. Today we are taking a look at the Trimui Brick. This was sent to me in the channel from 2retro.com, and I'll leave a link in the description as well as a code for you to save at least 10% off your next purchase from this website, as they have all kinds of different retro handhelds. And actually, we've taken a look at several on this channel, but never one by Trimui, and they've actually got a pretty good reputation, it would seem. This is one that I've been wanting to look at since it came out. It came out in late 2024, somewhere around October, and this is the first I've gotten my hands on it. This baby is small, it's sleek, it's got a nice metal back shell, it has RGB lighting. Let's open it up and take a look inside here. It seems to be packaged similarly to a lot of these handhelds that we see on this channel, though it has a nice weight to it. And it's compact. This is what I'm hoping is going to be like my next real pocketable handheld, something that I'm actually going to carry around in my pocket and play when I'm out and about. It's got a little screen protector on there, not a permanent one, just to keep it safe for packaging. There's that metal back. This is sleek looking, very shiny. I love the weight in my hands. Interesting stack trigger design back there, cool. They got their Trimui logo all over this thing. You see it imprinted on the back, it's on some of the buttons. The buttons feel good. I like it. This feels pretty nice. What else we have in here? We have the manual, nothing special there, pretty limited it would seem. We have what I'm sure is the USB-C cable. Yes, always good to have an extra one. It's usually good to use the one that actually comes with the handheld to charge your device. And this, I forgot about this. These are interchangeable buttons. You have 3 different choices of the shaped buttons that you can actually replace and move on the fly on the back of this thing. I guess you can just pop them out and pop in these new different shapes. That's unique, and that'll be fun to play with. So we'll take a look at the different buttons here in this video as well. See the different shape there? Pretty cool. Wow, I'm kind of excited about this. Pretty sweet. Alright, here we are, fast forward a bit into time, as I wanted to have some time to really play with this thing before we start talking about it. Now, first of all, when you power this thing on, it's real simple. You just hold this button for like a couple seconds there, as you might have just seen me do. Some of these handhelds you have to hold the power button for like 8 seconds, like the PlayStation Portal even. So here we have it. This screen is a really nice screen. It's actually 1024 by 768 and offers a 405 ppi pixel density. That's a lot better than many of these handhelds, as most of the Ambernics are going for like a half that resolution, sort of. So maybe not quite half that, but definitely lower. So here we're greeted with an interesting screen, and when I first turned this on, I was like, hold up, what do we got here? They only included a Bomberman collection, some Famicom multi-carts, nostalgic mini-games, and that's it. But no, if you hit the B button, you can back out all the way to this main hub here, where we have favorites, recent, best, games, ports, apps, net play, and settings. Yes, this does do net play, but before we go any further, let's take a look at the buttons a little more. Here we have a sleek buttonless top. We do have this nice color bar here, as well as inside, where I have already changed the triggers. These are the most comfortable. These are my favorites, but we're going to take a look at all of them. They're not necessarily the best looking, but they are the best feeling under my fingers here. So on the side we got our volume. Over here we have our power button, which is an interesting like teal bluish green color, and this function switch. This switch actually can do what you want, sort of. It has several different options in the settings to change what this does. I have it set to where if it's up, like so, it increases the CPU power, whereas down will give you a little bit of more battery saving power, and it's for games mostly that you'll be playing on this. Yes, this can handle some light N64, all PlayStation 1, stuff like that, but you're not really going to be using it for N64 too much, I don't think. But when you are, use that switch there. We're going to do some size comparisons here too. Here we have 2 more function keys, and I have this one set to turn off the lighting, and this one is set to swap the D-pad to an analog stick depending on what you're playing, which is pretty freaking cool. Super handy. You could set those too. It's very nice. Down here we have our start, select, and this is our little Trimui menu button, stereo sound. A hidden reset button that's recessed and hard to press, how I prefer them. We got our micro SD slot here, and it's rocking 64 gigs, and we got our USB-C. This might be a mic. And then we got our headphone jack, of course. It's very sleek. It's nice. It would be cool if all of it was metal, but this is pretty cool right here. I like it. So what do I think about it? Right now, I'm going to tell you that this is probably my new favorite pocketable, take everywhere handheld. I really like it. It looks good. It handles good. The buttons feel good. It's got good audio and brightness. I really like it, actually. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at some features. We'll take a look at some gameplay. We're going to swap the buttons around and discuss some of the features. And thanks so much to 2 Retro for supplying this for the channel, though I was not paid for this review, and these views are entirely my own. There's not much for you to see in here. Everything that's in here is also in your apps, where you can find your user guide. So that's handy. In here you can also set your function key. We got Moonlight, a media player, USB storage management, SD formatter, your RetroArch access directly into the app, an ebook reader for whatnot, and back to the beginning here. And then there's also other settings too. So that's apps, and then there's settings. So we got display, volume, Wi-Fi. You can do hotspots. So you can actually do your own little hotspot and play wirelessly between multiple Trimui bricks. You can play multiplayer. You can also play online. It's pretty cool, though it's a little difficult to set up, it seems. Though I don't have another Trimui brick. I was hoping that maybe I could play online or multiplayer, at least locally, with an Ambernick handheld, but I could not figure it out, even though they're both using RetroArch. I'm sure it's a lot easier if you have another Trimui brick, and we'll get into that a little later. We've got some themes here. Basically change the background for the most part in the way these little buttons look. You can remap your keys, and you got your system options here. There's a lot going on. So before we go ahead and get into gameplay, let's take a look at these different buttons. Here, as mentioned before, this is my favorite set. They're not the best looking, especially because for some reason L seems to stick up just a little bit higher, even though it's put all the way on. But it's not meant for looking at here. What it's meant for is having your fingers wrap around and really be able to touch those L2 and R2 without touching these at all. That's why I like this shape. But let's take a look at the others. And we're not going to show you how to do it every time, but let's show you how to do it this time. The buttons pop off this easy. That's it. That is all. They just pop right on there. Heck, you could do it without these if you wanted to, but you don't want to do that. So let's quickly move to the next button shape. Alright, now these are the ones I believe that came with the handheld when we pulled it out of the box. I'm not certain, but I'm pretty sure these are the ones we saw when it first came out. These are okay, but they're hardly staggered at all. Just very slightly different shape and height there. It goes up just a little bit, and it's really easy to press both of them down. I like the way this one looks better. It's sleek, but it doesn't feel as good in my hands. Alright, this is our other option here. This would be my second favorite because L2 and R2 are obviously higher there. And when you're pressing it, you can sort of wrap your fingers around and press those without hitting these. So it's kind of up to you. This one's pretty good. I'm not sure which one I like better. I think I still like the first ones that I showed you. Alright, let's do some size comparisons here. Here we have a Game Boy Color. This is a custom Game Boy Color, but it is still the same size of the Game Boy Color. It's a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller. Here we have it next to the RG406H. Here we have a Joy-Con for the Nintendo Switch. And finally, just for fun, here it is next to the PS Portal. Or rather, on top of it. They kind of look like they go together as it slides away. This little thing is freaking awesome. And notice in here in your menu you have the option of advanced menu. Whenever you hit your little Trimui button there, you have the advanced menu, which will take you into RetroArch. You also have that option to do NetPlay, and that takes you right into the RetroArch NetPlay setup, and it should be pretty easy to connect with another Trimui Brick and play some multiplayer, which is pretty cool. Alright, well, the last thing we have to do here is take a look at some gameplay, right? So let's get into it. We've got PlayStation, Super Famicom, Sega Saturn, WonderSwan and WonderSwan Color, Arcade, Atari Lynx, Atari 2600, Atari 7800, CPS-1, CPS-2, and CPS-3. We got Dreamcast, Final Burn Neo, Famicom, Game Gear, a couple Game & Watch games, Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, MAME Plus, Sega Genesis / Mega Drive. We got Master System, Nintendo 64, Nintendo DS, Neo Geo, Neo Geo Pocket, Open Bore, PC Engine, PGM, and Pico 8, and PSP. That is a lot of games. Not only do we have that, but we have ports. And included in ports is BALATRO, which is a game that is very popular right now on new systems. I don't know how they got this on here. I mean, I'm sure it's pretty easy to play a card game on an older, a lower powered console, but there it is. BALATRO. And it runs. And you've also got Stardew Valley and Sonic Mania on here. Pretty sweet. anything that's like NES, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, they all look really good on this screen. It's so crisp and has enough pixels that you can really get away with playing something on a tiny screen and it looking just fantastic. I think this looks really good and plays really good on here, and heck, it's pretty perfect for your on-the-go handheld. Of course, Game Boy is going to be one of the things that are really fun to play on here. And if you want to do the actual aspect ratio, you will have black bars on the side. But, yeah, Game Boy looks great on here. Once again, crisp screen, and we got good audio. I don't mind having those bars on the side, because it's like having a real Game Boy, you know. The screen didn't go out to the edges on that, so I think this is just fantastic, honestly. One of my favorite retro handhelds that has come out in recent times. Excellent. Game Boy Color, obviously, is just like I said with the Game Boy, but let's give you the comparison, and why not go from Donkey Kong Land 2 to a Donkey Kong Country for the Game Boy Color. They jumped a step there. Really pulled off quite a feat here by making these Donkey Kong games playable on the Game Boy and Game Boy Color. Sure, they weren't quite the same, but they were very similar. Very similar. Look how great this looks. This is a freaking Game Boy Color. It's a Super Nintendo game. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Whoops. And finally, we have to take a look at some Game Boy Advance. Game Boy Advance does look very excellent on here. Of course, you're going to have slight thin bars to the top and bottom. You can set it to stretch full screen if you want. That's just not how I like to do it. That being said, here's Doom on the Game Boy Advance. This was another, you know, pretty amazing feat for back in the day. It's getting Doom to run on. I remember getting it for the Super Nintendo and just loving it because I didn't have a PC. I had nothing that could run Doom, and I wanted to play Doom as a kid. They put it out on the Super Nintendo. Sure, it wasn't the same, but it was something. It really was something. And here we have it on the Game Boy Advance. It's incredible. Alright, y'all, so there we have it, the Trimui Brick. The only thing we haven't done is test it on a TV. I was thinking this had an HDMI out, a mini HDMI out, but it just has USB-C. That might do video out. Alas, I've looked in the manual though, and I don't think I see anything about it there, so let me know if I'm wrong. I actually thought that they were talking about a dock, or I thought I saw pictures of a dock for these, which would be sick. Or maybe it was just for charging. Let me know down in the comments below. Do you have a Trimui Brick? Did you want one? Did you know about them? You might want one now. This thing is just awesome. It feels great. It looks great. It plays great. Even the colored lights have grown on me, and they changed depending on which game console you're playing. So Famicom, it's Famicom Red and stuff. Really cool stuff. So if y'all like this, hit the like button, subscribe if you're not already. It really helps me out. Thanks so much to 2retro.com for sending this in for review, and don't forget to get yours. Check out the description below for a link and your special code so you can get a percentage off of your purchase. And thanks so much for visiting here today, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Peace out.
Childhood, we were all there together, and in denial would play like it was forever. And in the tall woods, we'd stay out of the weather like it was all good. Every day we made it for pleasure. We were saying whatever came to our minds, plain and simple like a tetherball reaching the sky.